It can be done in minutes now. Failure is not the end. It's just learning how not to do it so you can try something else. Failure is when you give up. If you want to write anything down out of that conversation, failure is when you give up. And that's one thing that, an attribute that was instilled in me very, very young, was I could do anything I set my mind to. And I can remember those words being told to me when I was 4 years old. Mark, you can do anything you set your mind to. If you look at those words, Mark, you can do. Do is what kind of a word? Action word. Anything you set your what to. Right, now what does the word set mean? Commit, right? A definite purpose with commitment. Now, if that's the case, could you also do that if I tell you the same thing? You can do anything you set your mind to. And the answer is absolutely yes, if you will do all the words in that phrase. Get rid of the clutter, the options, the distractions, and the excuses. That will help. John, you got a hand up?
It just occurred to me that really one of the things, the attractor is the thought of what you want, and then the action is the steps that overcome the barriers. Mm-hmm. And as you reduce those barriers, the attractor becomes more powerful and creates circumstances that cause you to materialize what you want faster.
My son John, who hears me talk about this stuff all the time, he was here the other night. He had to go to school and get programmed wrong. But see, he's been brought up to know that, hey, don't let school get in the way of your education. Any other comments about this?
All I was going to say was, for me, I was doing nothing. I was absolutely acting on nothing. I thought I was acting on something, but I was acting on a gazillion things all at one time and not acting on one thing focused. And until I narrowed everything down and I said, I'm not going to look at 2 or 3 things. I mean, I would even narrow it down from like 100, and I would say, okay, I'm going to look at 5 things. It didn't work. When I narrowed it to 3 things, didn't work. I had to narrow it to one thing, only one thing. This is just for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else. But when I narrowed it to one thing, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it just so happened that what I did was what I was supposed to be doing all along, and when it worked, it was like super action. And it was. It was exactly like you're talking about. It was like everything came to me, and it just matched. Mm-hmm. So for me, I had to say no to a lot of things to say yes, I was going to act on this one thing. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, okay. One of the issues that I hear people talk about a lot, and the advice you get is, well, you can only work on one thing at a time. That's a bunch of crap. You need to focus on one thing at a time. That's absolutely true. But I have a lot of things going on. The issue that I have, and I have a lot of things going on with various people, most of the time, not always, when something needs to get done, I do it fairly quickly or very quickly and get my portion done, and I turn around and say, okay, tag, you're it. And then I have to wait for the other person to do what needs to be done next. If I was just working on one thing at a time, sometimes I could wait 2 or 3 weeks before I would take any other action toward any other thing. So that's why I have multiple projects going on, where I can get a lot accomplished working with other people on various projects, and then on my own things, I can focus on them in the interim. Whether or not that's going to work for you, that's a style kind of a situation. It's also training yourself to be focused on the project at hand that's before you at that moment. There is a talent that you develop in that way. When you have a task to do, all the other clutter, options, distractions, and excuses go away so that you can focus and accomplish whatever the task is at hand at that moment. That you absolutely have to be able to do. And the best way to do that is in time blocks, so that you allot yourself certain periods of time to do things and accomplish things. Because what you'll tend to find out is whatever amount of time that you budget towards something, it always gets done right at the deadline, no matter if you give yourself a week or a month to do it. So if it's always going to get done right before the deadline, you might as well set shorter deadlines. Right? Think about it. I mean, am I right on this? You can give yourself a week to do something, or you can give yourself a month to do something. Guess which week out of that month it's going to get done? The last week. For most of us, it's not going to be the first 3 weeks. Because if you really applied yourself in the first 3 weeks, how long would it take you to do the project? A week.
Contradicts something you said earlier, that which is obvious and that which is not so obvious. You don't tell your success story. You don't have to. Your success story is in front of you. It's the stars of the people.
Well,
people who keep coming back to you are your success story. And that's, when you talk to people about why they're here, it's your honesty and integrity and your organization. And I think that the honesty part of it is what you're talking about there. The difficult thing for us much of the time is being honest with us about our code, about dealing with those factors, and having an accurate self-assessment, and then being honest with ourselves about implementing these things we're talking about now. But I appreciate your honesty and integrity, and I also appreciate the people in the room. That's your success story.
Thank you very much, Val. Val brings up a really good point of taking an accurate inventory of yourself. And I guess I may have picked this up from Napoleon Hill, or maybe just from my upbringing. Well, Shakespeare said it, didn't he? To thy own self be true. In other words, don't lie to yourself. We're always taught to be truthful for other people, but do not lie to yourself either. Actually see how you are. Don't make excuses. If you come up short, you came up short. By making excuses, you don't get any further along. You just delay the process. You're creating your own shields from the things that you're trying to attract. How silly is that? The process that you want to be doing is taking down the barriers. And too many people put up barriers between themselves and those things that they want to attract and be attracted to. The thing to take away from this little talk this morning is the real secret was what? Action. And is it so much attraction, or you'll get more attraction if you use subtraction and develop traction by taking action. Okay? Now, all of those words have a root. Action, subtraction, and traction have the root of action. Rather fascinating.